Parents of Reddit, what is the worst thing your child has caught you doing? Welcome to Total Reddit, keep your eyes on Total Reddit. Not embarrassing, but once when I was in the shower my 4-year-old yanked the curtain open and asked me why I had hair on my P***nis. When I tried to tell him that I don't have a P***nis because I'm female, he asked me if it was my butt. Try explaining that girls don't have front butts or a P***nis while standing naked in the shower with the door wide open. Finally I just told him he'd have hair on his butt one day and he cried and ran away. We were moving into a new house. I was 16, brother 13, sister 9. She couldn't carry much, so she took small things like lamps and some shoe boxes. She was carrying one labeled mom and fell and the contents spilled out. It was a shoebox filled with dildos of varying lengths, colors, sizes, races. One was a loud vibrator that moved around violently. So there it was on the driveway, slam dancing around in a mosh pit of dildos. Never seen my mother so mortified. My wife and I were fooling around. I was going down on her while using her toy, one that turns and gyrates and vibrates, very loud, on her. Being responsible adults, I assumed I had locked the door to our room after putting the kids to sleep. Anywho, she is lost in her pleasure, edging closer to orgasm, and I have my head buried between her thighs, with my naked A**s in the air, going to town, so of course neither of us hear the door open, or our 7-year-old son wander in until he says Mom. Oh. We quickly attempt to cover up while he throws his hands over his face in an attempt to unsee the terrible things I was doing to his mother, except he leaves his fingers spread apart and puts his hands near his forehead, his body frozen in place in horror. I start laughing, mostly due to embarrassment and his ineffective attempt to hide. My wife takes him to his room and talks to him, asking if he has any questions. All he could come up with was, "Does this mean I am going to have another sister?" TLDR, 7-year-old son catches me going down on wife, expects siblings. Apparently my 3-year-old woke up the other night without my hubby and I knowing. We were in the middle of having passionate hot and steamy **x and she watched from the door without making a peep. Those of you with 3-year-olds know that right there is impressive. But it gets better. She watches us and then sneaks back into her room, closes the door and goes to sleep. Something she has never done. The next morning we are eating breakfast together and she says out of nowhere, "Mommy, why was Daddy dancing on your butt last night?" I literally choked on my coffee and said, "What are you talking about?" And then she proceeded to tell me how last night she woke up and saw Daddy dancing on my butt and then started to gyrate in the middle of the kitchen, showing how he was dancing. My hubby could not lift his head out of embarrassment and left me to answer her question. The only thing I could think to say was we were having a dance competition and it was hot. And now she keeps asking to have a dance off. Probably not the worst thing, but sort of related. She saw me peeing once. As a dad, no big deal. Explain it, move on. She tried it recently with predictable results. The mats needed a cleaning anyway. This is somewhat related. Not that I was doing anything bad, but I definitely felt caught. My son has Crohn's disease and when he was diagnosed at 6, he had a lot of trouble with an abscess, for which he needed minor surgery. So, after the surgery, he was left with a wick in place, on his butt, to help the abscess drain. Anyone who has ever been through this knows it's common for people to wear a pad or panty liner during the draining phase, for convenience. So, my little then 7-year-old would go happily off to school with a secret backpack pocket full of panty liners, in case he needed them. Predictably, being 7 and being male, he thought this was the only use for panty liners. Cut to a few months later, I am alone in the bathroom and starting to suspect it's about to be that time of the month. My son ended up walking right in just as I was affixing a panty liner in place. I cannot accurately describe the look of shock and confusion on his little face. He looked right at me and yelled, "Mom! I see you with my butt things. Take that off. Those are mine." He's come to be convinced I had secret butt surgery and didn't tell anyone. I found a trunk full of some of my parents' stuff from when they were dating and first married, including papers they wrote in college. My dad, who went to college about 4 years after my mom because he was in Vietnam, plagiarized about half the papers he turned in. He copied the papers my mom turned in word for word. Or, They corrected me. My mom actually plagiarized herself because she typed all his papers. I caught my dad cutting coke when I was 6. He told me it was anti-sweat powder for a friend that had very sweaty feet and let me help him bag it up, into single foot usage. I only realized a few years ago what was actually happening. Well, when I was 12, my dad found an erotica I had written about me f-king a female version of myself from another universe. I earned some very weird looks after that. Edit. Oh shit, my dad actually has a Reddit account. Hope he doesn't find this. One of my kids walked in on me and my wife with our girlfriend. Incidentally, though we were just wrestling, line becomes a lot more probable when a third participant is involved. My 2 boys had just come home from elementary school's *X education lecture and I was working in our garage. They climbed up in the rafters where they had their fort while I worked below and asked me if I would answer some additional questions for them about the things they had talked about at school. Believing myself to have conquered most all of my hang-ups, I said sure. My youngest boy asked me what cum tasted like. I asked him what his tears, blood tasted like. He said salty and I said that the same was true for cum. He thought about it for a while and then asked, "How do you know, Dad?" Well, not any of my parenting, but I did see my mom's BBS when she got out of the shower. It was just bad timing, literally forgot to close her bedroom door and I'm turning to walk down the hall, then bam. BBS. My dad later asked me if I recognized them, took me a while to get that baby joke. I caught my mom putting in my dad's catheter once. One of those times you really wish your mom wasn't a nurse and the fact that he was totally naked and... Wait a minute, my mom was a principal, not a nurse. I caught my dad watching PN on the TV once. I stood behind him, watched for a few seconds, I said, "Dad." He immediately changed to another channel, and he got a little bit nervous. I said, "What were you watching?" To what he responded really fast, "Nothing." Nothing. I always laugh when I remember that. My mom went out of town for the weekend and I went to the bar with my friends where we saw my dad on what looked like a date with another woman. After watching them drink a little and dance for a while I couldn't take it, so I went home without him ever seeing me. After he got home I asked him why he was home so late, to which he replied, "My boss was on my *S about a project I needed to finish up at the office tonight." He had no idea that I knew. Not a parent yet, but I once caught my parents having *X when I was 5. And the only reason I still remember it's because my mom was so worried she made me go to a kids shrink weekly for 2 months. I've tried so hard to forget about this, so thanks for having it flood my brain with the unwanted memory. Not parents, but I was having *X with this girl on the floor of her apt, really going at it, and I see her eyes get big. I look behind me, and there's this 8-year-old boy staring at me. I can still picture his face like it was yesterday. I didn't know she had a kid. I didn't know the kid was in the APT. I don't know how long he was watching. I didn't know what to do or say. I still feel so bad about to this day. That look. About an hour ago, I walked into the apartment and addressed my wife with, "There's my sweet piece of *S. 2 seconds later, our 6-year-old son walked out of his bedroom and said, "Hey, Dada." He's also found *X toys on several occasions. I'm a single mom, and when my son was 4 or so, he walked in on my changing and asked me why my chest was so much bigger than his. He said he didn't realize that it was actually my body that was big in my shirt. He thought it was just a type of shirt girls wear. Fast forward a few weeks, I guess he had been talking about this in his pre-K. The teacher emailed me about it and I said I would talk to him about it. He came home and I started talking about what was okay to say in school and what wasn't, and he says, "But Mom, they didn't believe me when I said that boys have nipples and girls have BBS." My bed faces the door. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning, think the kids are passed out. Too stupid, lazy, trusting to close the door, so I instead reverse cowgirl it so I can watch the door. Few minutes in, I lock eyes with my son. I'll never forget his expression. The next day, he asked for me not to be naked in my bed anymore. "Okay, son. Sorry." My 6-year-old heard me tell my boyfriend that I didn't ever want a girl, I wanted a boy, and that I cried when I got the ultrasound revealing her gender. She came out of her room in absolute tears. I felt awful and reassured her that I am, in fact, incredibly happy that I have a daughter as wonderful as her. I felt like an A*S. Edit, for the record, I'm pretty sure every pregnant woman has had a gender preference before they find out the S*X of their child. It doesn't mean they love them any more or less if the gender isn't what they originally wanted. You're playing with a 50% chance, here, folks. Also, what pregnant woman doesn't cry? My mother told me a story of when I was a child. They used to smoke weed and had a stash spot for papers and weed. Anytime their friends would come over they would pull it out. It got to the point where I had seen it happen so much that I would run and grab it for them when their friends would get there. One day my whole came over for Thanksgiving. As soon as my granddad's A*S hit the sofa and ran and plopped a big bag of weed on his lap in front about 10 family members. Too bad I can't remember it though. Or luckily. Well, me and my boyfriend were sitting down in the living room to watch a movie, and we have a DVD player that automatically plays whatever is in it when you turn it on. We turned it on and we get greeted with a big round A*S being pounded like there was no tomorrow. Quickly turning it off and taking the DVD out, we laugh about my dad watching PN and decided to tell my mom when she got home. Mom gets home, so mom, we found this in the DVD player. She started freaking out. OMG, I'm so sorry I left it in there. 0_0. TL, DR found out my mom is an A*al freak. I was walking past a house which is known in my area for holding people who deal and take high-class drugs such as meth, crack cocaine, and heroin. At the point of walking past an open window, I was shocked to hear a young woman's voice, likely 20 to 25 years old, shout, "I can't believe you're shooting up in front of the kids." To which a man replied in an aggressive voice, "They don't f***ing understand what it's doing." I think my son was about 6 when I had my lady friend over one night. Being fairly unwealthy, I had a 1-bedroom apartment and my son's bed was tucked away in the living room behind a couch, a mere 12 feet from my bedroom door. Cue loud moaning from the very enthusiastic lady friend. The next morning my son asked why she had made a weird noise. I said she was trying to stop me from tickling her. Poor excuse, but I think he bought it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more updates.